My meditation teacher, Pandit Dabral, starts his meditations with the instruction to bring your mind in from other times and other places, and to bring your attention to your being. And I never used to pay much attention to that last part of the instruction because my mind was always pretty busy with other times and other places. But over time I noticed that I would be paying more attention to that and touching in a little bit to what he meant by that. We're usually pretty absorbed in our sense perceptions and in thoughts that are coming up. That's how we live our lives in the world, and we need to be paying attention to them. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that the power of the thought stream and of our interactions with people and how we feel about things can be so compelling and so strong that oftentimes we don't really remember that there's more to us than our experiences. And there's more to the mind than the level of the thoughts that stream through it all the time. As we start a practice, it's really good to tune into what's going on right now, to bring your mind in from other times and other places, and pay attention to your being. So bringing our mind in is accomplished partly by setting that intention. And it's not like we're not going to have any thoughts come through the mind. We're not trying to argue or struggle with the nature of the mind. We are setting an intention, though, to not let our mind wander all over the place. And usually when our mind's wandering, it's back in the past. Maybe there's something that we're kind of chewing over, or it might be some kind of anxiety about the future. So bringing our mind in to our body and our experience right now is a really good way to settle and allow ourselves to have a bit of space to notice what else is here. The mind likes to be busy, that layer of the mind, so we give it something to do. We tune into sense perception. When we have our eyes open, we're seeing colors and shapes, and the brain makes sense of them so that we know that we're looking out the window, it's foggy today, whatever it is that we're noticing. And the ears take in vibrations of sound, and then the brain makes sense of the sound. If you are not a native English speaker or don't know the language, these would just be sounds to you. Because we know English, those sounds turn into words that have meaning. Some meaning we enjoy, some we don't. We often have associations with words. And those associations could be other words, they could be pictures, and they could be sensations or energy in the body. As we do these practices of mindfulness and really tuning in, we bring our mind in from other times and other places. We become more familiar with the internal environment. A lot of times before people begin a meditation series with me, they'll talk about not really being all that aware of what happens below the neck. That a lot of us are really focused on the thoughts that come through the mind. And so it's very helpful to us to have a regular practice of going below the neck and beginning to become familiar with what happens in our heart center, in our guts, in our arms and legs, the back of our neck, all over the body, because we've kind of had this artificial separation between the body and the mind. And it's a really good experience to know that that's not actually a separation, that we can pay attention to the whole of our experience, our body, our breath, our energy, and the thoughts in the mind. And in addition to the experiences come and go, they change. We can also notice what it is that doesn't change. We all have some sense of our being. It might not be something we can put into words because it's not really a verbal level thing. But we all have a sense of that, and maybe it's that we let the thoughts relax for a minute and just notice that there might be a bit of space between thoughts. We can bring our attention to the forehead and the eyebrows. Notice this familiar experience. If we've been doing these practices for a while, we're very familiar with this method and this way of bringing ourselves in and of tuning in, noticing what's going on. The forehead and the eyebrows are often a place where worry settles in. So when we relax our forehead and let the eyebrows relax, often we have a bit of relief from worry or anxiety. We can focus on that pure sensation of the air flowing in the nostrils. Air flows over the membranes of the nose. It feels cool when you're breathing in. It feels a bit warmer when you're breathing out. When we tune into the breath, we can notice patterns and rhythms. Sometimes the breath is calm and even and relaxed. If we're stressed about something, it's going to be tighter, maybe a bit jerky, or maybe we're holding our breath. Anchoring our attention to the breath is a really effective way to bring ourselves into the present moment. And we also may find that we start to relax and become calmer as we focus on the breath. In addition to senses like touch and hearing and sight, we have the active senses, speech being one of them. Notice the whole mechanism of your speech. There's the jaw, the hinges of your jaw, whether your teeth are clenched as though you're holding in something. Notice your tongue and your vocal cords, the neck and shoulders. Notice what's happening in this moment in time. Noticing thoughts will still be coming through. Notice the forehead and the flow of breath. Take a few deep breaths, and as you inhale, notice what happens in your body. There's an expansion as we breathe in. You might even breathe a bit so that the lower ribs open. And as we breathe out, the whole relaxation response is activated. The shoulders release, everything settles. Take a few more deep breaths in and exhale. Let the breath just slide out slowly. Let it take its time. And when you bring your attention into the back of the neck and the shoulders, you might find that the shoulders are a bit softer. We have this energy in the back of the body that's pretty habitual for most of us. That can be a protection or a tightening. And notice that sensation, like all of the other sensations, is occurring in a space. The space that our bodies are occupying. And notice that you're observing that. There's the space, the sensation, your observation of that. And expand your awareness to include your whole body and your sense of being. Notice if there's a sense here of something that's not changing. And then bring your attention a little bit forward into the chest, the heart area, to the large muscles that cover the rib cage and the movement of your body with the breath. Notice what energy is there in the throat or the chest area, the heart center. Sometimes words and images will come along with the energy. Sometimes we can look at it more like just a pure physical sensation, noticing location and qualities, attributes. Sometimes in inquiry we might look and see, is that sensation me? It is something that's in our experience, something that we're observing as arising in our own body, our own space. It might be very familiar, or it might be kind of new. And bring your attention down a little bit so that you're now including your stomach area, your navel center, the lower belly, the pelvic floor, the muscles in the front and the sides of your pelvis, of your torso, the whole area that we're looking at. Notice the back as well. And notice that you're observing phenomena in this space that change. Even if it's a very familiar, persistent energy, it's not always here in the same way. And as we pay attention and attend to what it is that changes, also put some attention on what is not changing, what's always the same. One thing I've noticed is that sensation appears in space, and the space itself is not affected by sensation. And one of the ways I know that is because if I move over 2 feet to the right, the space that that sensation was in now is not going to be affected by the sensation. It's just going to be empty space again. And then include your arms and hands, your legs and feet. our instruments of action in the world. And notice that with everything that's present, there's also a sense of something that's not changing. It's pretty easy to notice that my right leg moving in a certain direction isn't me, that it's an action that's happening in my body. It's not me, but it's not all of who I am. This wiggling my toes or movement in my left arm, those are things that I might do with my body, or that I might experience through my body. Notice if you can look at thought from that perspective. Thoughts appear. We pay attention or not. We have associations or we don't. And notice we have thoughts. We're not trying to separate ourselves from our thoughts. And notice if you can see that there's more to your being than your thoughts. There's sensation, there's breathing, there's movement. There's the watching of thoughts, the observing. We're more than our thoughts. Tune into that which is not the body or sensation or movement or thought. It's not even the observing of this phenomenon. What else is it? What shows up when we pay attention to our being? We bring our mind in from other times and other places and notice our being. Our experience includes our body, our energy, our breath, our thoughts, our noticing of that. And set an intention before we finish so that during the day when you're fully engaged in the world and there's thoughts and movements and interactions going on, that you remember sometimes to tune back into this. Even just for a few seconds, to bring yourself back into this recognition of what is here that doesn't change.